What's up, guys? Back with another video. This is part 2 of Dan Aykroyd talking about UFOs and aliens. I'm just going to max screen this here, right here. I'll probably pause this video in exactly half an hour. So let me just get my timer up real quick so I can, make sure it's around about that time. Just 1 second. So 8:30, say 8:41 p.m. Yep, there we go. Bam. So that'll be half an hour exactly. If you like these kinds of videos, and I've got a lot more coming, don't be afraid to drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The main one being subscribe, because obviously if you subscribe, then you'll be notified of my future videos. Also, you hit the notification bell to be notified faster than normal. And yeah, drop a share too, because it appears that I am now shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. So yeah, that's the thing. I thought it was gonna take till I got at least like maybe 5 to 10,000, subscribers to get noticed. But YouTube has already noticed me at 86 subscribers, so I've done something to piss them off. So yeah, if they're pissed off at me now, they're gonna be pissed off a lot more in the future, because I've got a lot more stuff coming. Anyway, enjoy the video. It's got a lot of explosive stuff, and it's Dan Aykroyd, who's a famous actor. A lot of you might have heard of him. But yeah, enjoy. And I'll see you all in the next video.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Colonel Corso makes it clear that the Reagan administration's Strategic Defense Initiative, appropriately dubbed Star Wars, was primarily designed for use against the alien intruders. His contemporary successor, the Anti-Missile Defense System, is also being designed with that as one of its principal objectives. It is true that a case can be made for attempting to provide a shield against the Russians and Chinese, although everyone knows that the Russians are not going to embark on a policy which would result in their total destruction. It is equally true that they, too, are aware of the visitors and know that the perceived threat from the visitors has been a major consideration in the planning of the anti-missile system.
And the incident in question, as at least from my perspective, almost ignited a nuclear war, and that was 5 unidentified objects were picked up on radar coming in over the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, Southern Washington, Oregon area. As these objects approached the coast, Strategic Air Command went on a alert. We were in a defense condition, or what is referred to as a DEFCON, Defense Condition 3, which means that the nuclear forces were ready, but they weren't on a ready stated alert. We elevated that to Defense Condition 4. Defense Condition 5 is launch. When we went on our alert, the Russians were also monitoring our nuclear armed forces as we were theirs. And so they knew that our bombers had gone to fail-safe. They knew that the launch codes had been given. They also knew that the hatches on the ICBM missiles had been removed and that we were getting ready to do a launch. I know that Nixon, President Richard Milhouse Nixon, picked up the phone and called the Kremlin. The White House notified the Kremlin that these objects were not, and I repeat, not a preemptive launch by us, that they too, the Russians, had been tracking these objects as they came in over the Bering Sea.
probably moved 100 miles in a matter of a second or two.
When we look at alien abduction, I mean, the idea of a human being being taken and having an implant inserted into their body, I often think of how biologists, how we tag whales. You know, we put a chip on a whale and we can track them via satellite, and also how, you know, we go into a frog's pond and we pull out the frog and we spread it out on the table. Remember in biology class we used to do this, and, you know, stick the little needles in his legs and cut him open. I mean, that's how we look at another life form in another world. So is it really a sign of violence and negativity that an extraterrestrial civilization is coming to Earth and doing the same to us, putting computer chip implants on us to track us, know where we are, study our species, do a little bit of biological experimentation? I mean, I know for us it's horrific. I mean, it's absolutely a violent thing for us as humans, but from their perspective, do you really think that they're being violent?
Well, again, I have to go back to some of them might be here for good purposes, genuinely interested in perhaps helping mankind, and some are here for selfish purposes. Maybe these abductions, even though they're done in a you know, objective but you know, biological way, like we dissect frogs, maybe they're doing it, you know, just for fun and for sport. I mean, I don't know. I think probably that that the fear could be justified in some senses. Anne Druffel has written this book about how to prevent being abducted. And we really think, even if benevolent species coming to this planet and taking a man and a woman and taking ova out of a woman and sperm out of a man, that's tremendously invasive and very traumatic for the human beings. So even if the motives are good, you know, these actions are as violent as anyone we're capable of on the planet. I think that a certain amount of fear is justified. If you look at Day the Earth Stood Still, you know, the first thing that happens is the army is assembled and, you know, guns are shot at these beings and at the ship.
I addressed the question to Dick Cheney because I say the most important question to put to any high-ranking official is not what do you think about UFOs or have you seen one. The most important question is, have you ever been briefed on the subject? Did someone walk in your office and tell you what's going on? Because if someone walks into the president's office or some high-ranking official and briefs him on the subject of UFOs, it is for real. It's not imaginary, as the government has been saying for 60 years. So I asked Mr. Cheney, this is 3 months after he became the vice president, I asked him on the air, and this is still on Diane Ream's archives, Mr. Cheney, in all your jobs in government, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if so, when was it and what were you told? And Mr. Cheney said, if I had been briefed on that subject, it probably would have been classified and I wouldn't be talking about it.
January 22nd, 1997, I noticed 3 amber orbs now at a distance far west on the horizon. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, even though they're in a line formation, they were amber, they were in a formation, they were hovering for minutes. And as I'm pointing like this, they reappear in the same spot. And I thought, I have to get a picture of this. And I ran upstairs, I grabbed my 35mm, get out onto the balcony. As I'm ready to shoot the 3 bottom orbs, suddenly 6 amber orbs in a row, totally equidistant from each other, massive span across, pop up.
On March 13, 1997, over 10,000 Arizona residents witnessed the single most spectacular UFO sighting in the 20th century. Headlines surged the nation, and Arizona residents demanded answers from military and state officials. A mile-wide UFO was seen from as far north as Flagstaff, Arizona, and then the giant triangular UFO hovered above the great city of Phoenix, Arizona, where Dr. Lynn Ketai shot this amazing videotape.
When we go out into space and we're exploring the cosmos out there and we're looking for signs of extraterrestrial life, what kind of a communication are we going to send out? I mean, if Dan Aykroyd was the ambassador, if you were the ambassador for Earth, what message would you teletype to ET?
If I were to speak for mankind to these beings that were coming here, I guess what I would say is, you know, let's go to some neutral place. Let's have a meeting with scientists from all around the world leaders. Let's sit down and basically have a sort of a forum with you, the extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional beings. Let's sit down and kind of get to know each other. And, you know, human instinct is pretty good. And I think, you know, it would almost like be a sort of a G8 style kind of summit with world leaders, scientific leaders, and these beings. And you'd sit down with them and, you know, after about a week, or even a couple of days, or maybe a few hours, you would really sort of get a sense of what they're up to. But of course, you know, childhood's end, Arthur C. Clarke's great story. It looked like these beings were benevolent, even though they had a malevolent appearance. And in the end, we find out that they meant no good for our planet. So I think it's important that some branches of the military and police be briefed on these in a very real sense, and be told, you know, they are real, people are being abducted, there is mind control in play here, and that we do have to be vigilant. Now, if we knew that there was a purely benevolent race, like if something happened in Iraq where all of the electronics went out in the American military and all of the insurgents' rifles jammed, or we saw all of the polluted waters in North Carolina from the pig farming completely healed overnight, and different signs like this, then we would know we're dealing with a benevolent species, and then we could really be open and welcome. But then again, we would have to be cautious, because beings with that much power could give the impression that they're here to help when really they're not. So the verdict is out on all this. We just don't know which ones are benevolent, which ones are malevolent, and the degree to which they're going to continue interacting with our planet. But what would really help is if the United States military and police and government open it up to their staffs and say, look, this is something we really do have to consider, because, you know, maybe the defense, the survival of our species could well be at stake. If you look at the history, you know, from, say, Ken Arnold's first sighting in '47, going back to the Bible, Ezekiel's wheel, going back to the medieval manifestations of little saucers and UFOs, that painting of the Madonna that's very famous, in which it appears, up to now, there have been no mass murders by these beings. There's been no mass destruction of cities, but hundreds of thousands of people have been taken out of their lives, subjected to surgical experimentation, released back into the population, and are suffering trauma today for it. That is not good.
The idea, I mean, like in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the meeting on the dark side of the moon in Devil's Tower, Wyoming, I mean, it seems like the logical thing to do. I mean, we have a communication, a teletype message, we have a place, a location, and a time, and we isolate it from the public until we know it's safe. I mean, we check each other out. I mean, this seems like the most logical thing to do, you know, even rather than meeting on the White House lawn. I mean, this is the way we would like it to happen. But that doesn't seem to be the way it's really happening. I mean, these extraterrestrials don't seem to be so interested in doing things politically the way we do things on Earth. They're picking certain individuals to contact. They are zeroing in on those individuals. But now, I mean, there are so many sightings going on all over the planet. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, Iran, Turkey, Mexico.
Just real quick, I just want to quickly pause it there, right where he said they're picking certain individuals to contact. I don't know, like, I mean, maybe my personal sighting was one of those moments. I mean, I didn't really get any messages from them, but I mean, I saw enough. Anyway, that'll be a topic for another video, and I'll let him continue.
Venice, California, Sonora, California, Texas, Death Valley. I mean, the reports are coming in every other day now. It seems like we're heading towards an omega point. I mean, what is about to happen? I mean, is this all just a coincidence that more and more people have video cameras, or do you really think, you know, there's a major unprecedented communication that is about to happen between our extraterrestrial visitors and humanity? Or again, is it the video camera question? More camcorders?
There are definitely more video cameras out there, and definitely more sightings and definitely more credible witnesses. You know, the biggest thing in ufology in the 60s was Herb Shermer, the Nebraska Highway Patrolman, who was at the Ashland Oil tank farm out there in Nebraska, and he writes in his diary, you know, saw flying saucer, and then under hypnosis, turned out that he was taken aboard and informed of their intentions. Barney and Betty Hill. I mean, these were the key cases. Shermer, Barney and Betty Hill, the Pascagoula incident.
The Barney and Betty Hill case I'll be uploading next after this 3-part series is done. Stay tuned for that. Don't forget to check out, like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And also share the video. I mean, we need to get this info out to the public. I mean, even today, this is back in 2012. Even today in 2021, I guarantee you, no one really knows that Dan Aykroyd was a goddamn UFO expert. Because he pretty much is. Like, I mean, he's on my level. But yeah, anyway, let's continue.
Travis Walton. Now there are hundreds of cases like this, and I think that because it's in the consciousness, because we have, you know, a poll saying basically half of the world believes and half doesn't, we're reaching a point where, as Stephen Bassett talks about his time clock, it's like the nuclear time clock that we had in the 50s before we blew the world, you know, before we blew the world up. The theory that once the hands got to midnight, that's when all the nuclear weapons in the world would be discharged. Well, we've stopped that nuclear clock, thankfully. But as far as the UFO clock, he says we're 1 minute to midnight now, meaning that in a minute to midnight, something really, really spectacular is going to happen. Now, whether that's a mass appearance, whether that is, you know, it come over to the Yankee Stadium during a game, I think possibly the next, maybe even in the next 5 years, we're going to have occasions like the one I experienced in upstate New York in the mid-'80s when I woke up in the middle of the night and I said to my wife, they're calling me, I want to go outside, they want me to come outside and see. She said, who? Something outside wants me to come out and say, oh, just go back to bed. I went back to bed, but in the next day in the media, in newspapers, in radio, all over upstate New York and Ontario and Quebec and Vermont, people spoke about this urge they had to go out of their houses at 3 in the morning and look up into the sky. And 12,000 people shared this urge. And they went out and it was a big, big news story. And of course the Air Force said that a Chinese rocket had exploded over New York State. And what people saw was a massive, miles-high pink spiral in the sky above the Great Lakes. In Hull, Quebec, Canada, a few years afterwards, there was a story of several hundred people, almost 1,000 people in this community, Gatineau, north of Hull, Quebec, Canada, in the Quebec province, sharing this urge to come outside and look up into the sky, and they also saw an apparition. So there are going to be more of these mass sightings. And, you know, the day that 1 million people in Idaho at a rock concert or something see it, that is when you're going to really get the conventional military and police sitting down to say, well, it's time to throw the Brookings Institution report out and lay it open to the people and let the people decide, you know, what must be done in conference with our state leaders.
Right there real quick. One of those moments that he's talking about was also not only the Phoenix Lights, which happened in 1998. I want to say between 1997 and 1998. I'm not 100% sure on the year, but it's around about that time. Like, thousands of people saw that. It was all over American news, and they're like, nothing to see here, guys. It's just some training flares. Well, it's just some. We're just checking some flares out. Seeing how they go. But they're all flying in formation and in a direct, direction, not only in formation, but also against the wind. And now I did a bit of research on that, and it's like, well, I'm pretty sure flares can't tell the wind to go get fucked. They go and they just go do that. So it definitely wasn't flares like they would like us to believe, just like Roswell 1947 wasn't a weather balloon like they'd like us to believe, and it's not swamp gas like they'd like us to believe. But let's continue.
Looks like you got an object right in front of you, Mark. Can you look out there? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Never mind. Are we missing something? I don't see anything. Yeah, we think the camera filter came off, Mark. It's about your 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock going away. Don't worry about it.
There have been so many celebrities. I mean, like people like David Bowie and John Denver, many people who have been interested in UFOs, but also in the idea of going into space. Would you train and go on the space shuttle yourself and conduct investigations into UFOs? And if you did that and you took an oath that stated that if you did discover something out there, that you would not share it with the American public. And if you knew you had captured on videotape actual UFOs from the space shuttle, would you break that oath and share the truth with the American public?
Well, first of all, I'm claustrophobic, so I doubt I'll go up into space. But if I were to go up into space, I would have to say, look, what we see up there and what we find, we're just gonna have to throw out that law. There's a law. According to NASA's Space Act, signed on July 29th, 1958, Section 102, Paragraph C, Subparagraph A, we read, information obtained or developed by the administrator in the performance of his functions under this act shall be available for public inspection, except information authorized or required by federal statute to be withheld and information classified to protect the national security. Would NASA consider contact with an extraterrestrial civilization a threat to national security? And if they did, would they classify it to protect the national security? So I would have to say, no, I couldn't agree to non-disclosure. I really couldn't if I saw something or photographed something. But I can see where other people, wanting to do the best for their country, wanting to serve their country in a legitimate way would say, yes, I will not disclose. And this is based on the Brookings Institution report from the late 50s, which, Congress commissioned, which said that if the existence of UFOs were revealed to the American populace would not be able to handle it. They would defy church authority, police authority, military authority, governmental authority. They wouldn't go to work. They would sort of cast aside the mayors and governors and presidents and go, we want to talk directly to these beings. We feel that these beings should, have their case put to us directly by them themselves. I think the American populace today is ready to handle the concept that what we live in, the 4 dimensions of height, length, width, and time, is not all there is. There are more dimensional realities. There are advanced beings with machines that can skip from dimension to dimension, from galaxy to galaxy, using the Einstein-Rosen bridges, the wormholes. I think the American people I think half of them know, and I think the other half, with the proper evidence, would be ready to accept it.
Just gonna leave that right there because it's almost half an hour. But if you see what he says there, a lot of why, not just American people, but people in the world, like, we're not ready for the most part. I mean, like, you look at what what saying aliens are real would do to religions, would do to governments. Like, they wouldn't have that monopolistic control over the public that they do now. Like, they just wouldn't have that anymore. Like, and that is 100% true what Dan Aykroyd just said. And I've seen it countless times in YouTube comments, in Facebook conversations and stuff with people that, some people they're just not ready for that. I mean, like a mass landing, for example. Like, I mean, there was rumors that a mass landing would happen if they, e.g. aliens, decided that we were ready, finally. And then we would get a mass landing over the whole world, to prove to every single person that they're real, And I am still waiting for that day, but I mean, I've seen some signs that it might be coming close. Like, we look at, the Pentagon just said aliens are real, UFOs and aliens are real. The U.S. Navy just said UFOs and aliens are real. Who else? The CIA just released a whole bunch of documents on UFOs and aliens, and all these other governments. I mean, I'm probably going to make a video soon that's like a compilation of all these world governments and shit, like whether it be articles or video footage or whatever, all giving their admittance, they're admitting that UFOs or aliens are real. There was one other video I made earlier, maybe a couple of weeks ago, that I read an article that was from like the Pentagon or something, and they claimed that they had several alien craft in their possession, and they were made of materials that were not of this earth. I mean, yeah, I mean, anyone can try and, figure out what that means and stuff, but come on, you can't say that something's not made of this earth and then think that it's like man-made. It's not possible. If it's not made of this earth, e.g. our own planet, like the materials themselves, like we can't even find these materials here on this earth, on this planet. So then how is that spacecraft a man-made object? It's just not possible. I mean, it's just straight up aliens right there. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. It'll probably be maybe tomorrow. So yeah, that's part 2 of Dan Aykroyd interview on UFOs and aliens. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and don't forget to check out like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.